As believers, it can be really hard to live out our faith in our day-to-day life. Knowing it is one thing, doing it is another. I have created another tool that's going to help you live out your faith daily, and I'm really excited to tell you about it in today's episode. I have a great interview with a dear friend of mine, and I think you're going to love it. I hope you'll join us. Welcome to Longing for More, where Christians come to strengthen their faith, revive their soul, and learn to live their lives with a sense of fulfillment and peace. Listen each week to learn how to incorporate your faith into your daily activities, stop wandering through life feeling empty and unfulfilled, and begin to live your more. Let's get started. Hey everyone, as I promised, we have a really special episode today, and we're going to talk about my new book. Yay!
Yay.
It's like yeah, it's like birthing a child. Although this one was in gestation for a really long time, and that's okay because it's in God's timing. And I love the fact that I'm actually releasing this book on the day of Epiphany. And I feel that there's some significance to that. And I have invited my dear friend Dana Lyons, who is also an author and coach. She's going to interview me in this process to get out the story of what the book is and what it's about. And you are just going to love Dana. If you've been listening to the podcast, you've heard her before, because once we dive into a conversation, we can go all over the place and we just have so much joy. And I have a feeling that you are going to feel that as you listen to this conversation too. So, Dana, welcome. And thank you so much for being willing to do this today. I'm really excited to have this conversation.
Oh, Vona, I am so honored. I am so honored. Like I told you earlier, I started reading through this book and I chuckled through all of it, wanting to take screenshots, like I told you earlier, that I just wanted to send you saying, are you sure you didn't write this just for me? Because there were so many points of just where I've been in the last 6 months. So thank you for all your time, your effort, sharing your own story, and the wisdom you have to share, because I think we all can benefit from every page, really, what you share. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot to me. I don't know if you'll remember, but you were literally with me when we first started drafting the very first words of this book. It was a challenge that was put to us
That's right.
based on our author conference over a year ago.
That's right. That's right. And you completed.
I did. I
I
did.
remember the conversations. You remember we said, I don't think we're going to do it. It's going to take a miracle. We've got however many days. And then I got that. It was a text or a message, whatever it was. And you're like, I did it. You
Yes,
remember that? I
I
still remember
do.
it.
I
Yeah.
do. Well, those
Yes.
deadlines, they seem so ridiculous sometimes, but they really do cause us to get things done that we might not would otherwise get done. So
Yeah.
it's
And it's it has been in you. And so I think that deadline for you, it really just was a great way to say, okay, now's the time, you got to get it out. And I just watched that happen. It was just so beautiful how, and ever since then, everything has just fallen right into place, which has been such a beautiful thing to watch firsthand. So fun. So for readers or listeners, share with us, what is the name of your book, and tell us your subtitle.
the name of the book is Equipped for More. And if you've been following me at all, you know that my tagline is Live Your More. My podcast is Longing for More. It's all about more. It's not the more of the world, it's the more of needing more of Christ in our life. And more stands for, I'll just give it to you right up front. More is what's missing in our lives, creating order out of the chaos, redefining our priorities. And then the E is living out our eternal purpose.
I
And
love that.
yeah. So that's the title is Equipped for More. The tagline or the subtitle for the book is 10 Essential Habits to Stop Your Doubts and Fear of Judgment so you can boldly live your faith.
I love
And
that.
it's so long, but it's every word has meaning. And it needed to be all of that. And yeah, so
Yeah. So this is not your first book.
no.
You already wrote a book. This is your second book. So how is this one different than your first one? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So the first one is a different view and start living the life your soul longs for. And of course, that ties in with the podcast and the longing for more. And the first one I felt like was really, as I got into writing this book, I realized that it was the why we need to change our perspective on the world, and the fact that, the world has twisted God's word, and we have gotten fallen off of the path that He intends for us.
Mhm.
We truly have, tried to make some of the things that He says what we want it to mean and not what He wants it to mean. And so that book is really focused on getting back to the Bible and the biblical truths, loving people, and then having the courage to share our story and invite people in.
Mm.
But what I found was, after I got done with that, was I felt like people were still grappling with, okay, well, that's all well and good, but how do I do that? There's the inspiration, but then it's like, how do I get that done? And to me, equipped for more is just that. It's helping us develop those habits that really let us live out our faith, because it's one thing to say I believe, it's another thing to live our life demonstrating that we do believe and trust.
So true.
Yeah.
And a lot of people just don't know how. We think it's right, a lot more, say, spiritual looking than what it is. And what I love about this book is you give these practical, practicing the habit of tips in there in everyday life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So this isn't a series, correct? Would
It's
you call
funny
it a
because I
series?
started out and I said it was a series, and then it isn't a series. And I, I think that I will write more books about living our more. Um, and I think that they'll all tie into together. But right now, I consider A Different View and Equip for More to be companions.
Hmm.
There will also be uh, a workbook that goes with Equip for More. So that's like you mentioned the practice the habits section of the book. I will have a
Mhm.
download so that people can go and just print off a free PDF, so they can use it over and over again, and keep, the book clean, or so they can share it with others. And as you evolve and change your perspectives, you'll always have that clean paper to be able to track where you are in that journey of faith.
Wow, you thought of everybody. Those who want to do the work, those who don't want to write in the book, those who like to take notes. I mean, you covered all. That's wonderful.
And eventually, I
That's
will I
great.
will have the workbook will be a printed book that you can
Mm,
actually, bound book that can go with it. So the
yeah.
other thing that's really kind of cool is I've had conversations, different conversations from different directions, and eventually I really want to write these concepts into children's books. Get them started young to develop these concepts and these habits of faith and living out our faith. So both for really young children and then teens, to get people involved that way. So
It's so helpful because, as parents, you just so want to share what you're learning, um, to your children. And you are going to be reaching children because if you could help the parent, you're going to help their kids. So I love that. That's like a family affair.
yeah.
What inspired you to write this book? I guess you did kind of talk about that a little bit, that you saw that there wasn't a how. Is that what really was your inspiration to doing this one in particular?
I think that, and just it's like when I think about how I got to this point, I talk about fulfillment and peace, and I mean, they seem so unattainable in the world today. I mean, everybody is stressed out and overwhelmed. And
Yeah.
I mean, we just don't take the time to just slow down and sit with God. We talk about that a lot in our
Yeah.
conversations, about just being present with God and with the people in our lives. And it's so hard to consciously make those choices. And I realized that there are things, and I have I have the 10 essential habits, but the top three, I say right in the book, start with these. I don't care what order you do them in, but start with being in scripture, being in prayer, and being still and listening to what God has to say. I was talking to a friend the other day, and we were talking about this, and it came up. It's actually one of my pastor friends, and it came up, and I said, yeah, it's just, we need to just shut up and listen. And I said, I don't say it exactly that way in the book. He goes, maybe you should.
Sometimes that's what we need to hear.
Right. So I, it's like I talk about confidence and being able to boldly speak up, but that didn't come from just a decision I made one day. That came from practicing these habits. And it
Yeah.
needed to be written down. It needed to be documented so other people can have that too.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your story, because I think where we can tend to really connect with authors that we follow and that we listen, that we're open, we could hear a lot of people, but the ones that we're really open to listen to are those that we really connect with. So can you tell a little bit about your own story of where you were that took you on this journey of like here, the Vona back then?
How far back are we going?
Well, however far you want to help the reader relate to you, because I just think you're so relatable. You're so real. That's what you're my dear friend. We relate so much, and yet they're not going to see that in a book. They'll get some of your voice, but tell me, you've obviously been through what you're sharing.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you want to go way back, that's the conversation about a different view. I tell my story there about growing up in the church and wandering away and getting pregnant, and as a single mom, single college student, actually, the cancer journey, all of that is in a different view. This journey, I think, really starts as that young professional, the wife with the blended family. So we're dealing with a career, a new husband, a young child, stepchildren, all of the things, trying to be super mom, super employee, super employer. I mean, doing all the things and just being stressed out and overwhelmed, and knowing that there had to be more to life, and starting on the journey of Bible studies. And I'm a huge Beth Moore and Lisa Tierkirst and all of those big gals, that have really led us through this path of learning and understanding the Bible. I always thought the Old Testament was just like you hear in the world today. It doesn't apply. It's not applicable to the world. And boy, what a lie. We bought off on that one, and it is not true. All of the Bible points us to exactly what we need to know, and there's just so much rich wisdom in that. So, so once I started getting into that, and I realized that it does apply to life, and that it helps. It's like I say in one of the chapters of this book. They say that life, we should have a manual in life, and it's too bad there isn't one. And that's not true. There is a manual for life. It's the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
So I just started that path, and the farther I got down my journey, and I started realizing that, people look at me and they're like, you're always, you come to the table with so much peace. You just have an aura of calm about you. Where does that come from? And it's these practices that make that shines through, right?
Yes, and I'm sure every one of your viewers, listeners would agree with me. You have one of the most peaceful voices to listen to. You're just so that I could just tuck my head in and just fall asleep, because you carry peace, unlike I think anybody I know. Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's a huge compliment. We actually talked about that in one of the other group sessions I was in today. I had a really high compliment. I think I was posting about this book being out for pre-release or whatever, and one of the gals in our author group shared it and said the highest compliment. She said Vona is an ambassador for peace, and it was just like, oh wow,
That's
wow,
spot on.
what a huge compliment. So yeah.
So a person's walking in the bookstore, or they're looking on barnesandnoble.com or Amazon. What is the average reader? searching for as they look for your book? Who would you say that is?
You know, what they're looking for, or who are we targeting? I think those are two different questions.
Well, I guess answer both, because to me they're
Okay.
very similar.
Okay. So to me, it's going to be that person that just has, I mean, God instills in us this longing for more. I mean, we know when we're looking for that there's we're just unsettled. It's like we can have everything,
Yeah.
but know that it's not enough. And unfortunately, in this world, we try and stuff all of these other things to fill that hole, and that's not it. So that's kind of the what they're looking for, and I believe that there are a lot of Christians out there that wear that label, but we don't know what we don't know, um, and so we think it's like we love Jesus. We know that he's a part of our life, but we don't realize that this gift of faith is so much more than just going to church on Sundays and serving at the food pantry and, all of the things that we think of as, just good people. There's so much more available to us. And it's that ability to trust God and to just be at peace with what is and where we are and what we're called to do. And sometimes we're called to do things that are really uncomfortable and stretch us beyond our comfort zone. And I believe that we need to practice these habits so that we can have that courage to boldly live our faith. God doesn't, think of the 10 talent or the talents, where God gave the three different people, and it wasn't God, it was the landowner was going away, and he gave one of his servants 5 talents, and one 2 talents, and one talent, and how they, God intended for us to invest the talents that he gives us. And it's not the money, it's our gifts and talents and all of that.
Yeah.
And it's the one that he gave the 1 talent to was afraid and didn't do anything with it. And I think that there's a lot of us out there in the world in that same place. We are afraid of, what will happen if. For me, it was, I had a great career, wonderful career, and loved what I did, and loved the people I worked with, and was great, made great money, and God was calling me to more. But it was scary to let go. I took early retirement, so I let go of half of my salary, um, and it
That's
was
a bold move.
yeah, and it took that realization that I needed to trust God to do that. And and this journey
Yeah.
of being an author is amazing. I'm loving it, but it's taking me on a path of really learning to trust everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I always say, faith is exciting and terrifying, depending on what step you're taking. And if you're on terrifying, don't worry, exciting's coming, because
I
it's,
love it.
it's one foot in front of the other.
Absolutely.
What do you hope others would say about this book?
I hope that people will say, this is what I've been looking for and didn't even know. This is what I needed in my life. And it's so simple and easy. It's not like it's going to take you a month to sit down and read it and sort through all of the things. I mean, it's just very practical and very, very easy to apply to your life. And you can do it in bite-sized chunks. You can do it all in a day. It's whatever God leads you to, because it's not a scripted, okay, do this, now do this, now do this. It's get into those habits and start listening to where the Holy Spirit leads you to. My path is not your path.
Yeah, what I love about your book, because I read through it, and you can read through it, it's a fast read. But it's also, to me, one of those books that I will put on my shelf as a go-to. You have those that you can read. They're motivational and they're inspiring and they're nice and they're good stories. There's nothing wrong with that. But yours it's almost, to me, feels like a personal handbook, in a sense that you can keep it in right by your Bible. You can keep it by your devotion, and every day pull a little nugget out and really chew on that. For some, it might be kind of cool to take your book through a year, and each month you could do,
Oh,
just
yeah.
kind of chewing on each habit, because it takes practice, to create a habit, right? And so that's the way I kind of felt as I was going through that. And yet I felt like I was doing it with a friend,
You
you know,
know, I'm glad you brought that up because one of the things that I want to use this book for, and actually both books, is my membership. I have a community that I have two different levels. The community, one part of it's free and it's kind of like a Facebook group where you can get on and, do your memes and chats and, just whatever. And in that, we're going to do book studies that will be free. And so we're going to start with this book. It's my study. I can do it if I want to, right?
that's right.
um, but then there's another level where there's a membership where we're going to have conversations and answer questions and really help people do a deep dive into the topics that are in this book and A Different View Together, because they're so woven together in so many ways. But I can see exactly what you're saying is taking it, it's like we'll go through it as a book study in that first month, but then we'll take it piece by piece in the membership and really talk about forgiveness and patience and honesty. And I mean, all of those things that we talk about in the book that are, there's so many facets on all of those. And it's not just something that where you say, okay, I'm going to be more forgiving now, because it's a process to really,
Yeah.
yeah.
And there's so many different facets and areas you can go with, just say forgiveness, because you brought that up, right? And everybody's is different in the season that they're in and what they're dealing with. And what I love is your heart to have these hard conversations and making yourself available to people who want to be part of this, because nowadays everything's very shallow in the sense that we could hop on and be part of any group, but we are created for intimacy.
We are.
And in your group, I think people are going to find that, right? Can you want to talk a little bit about like just having those hard conversations? You share
Yeah.
a little bit about your heart for that.
It's funny because this time of season, so we're recording this on December 16th, which happens to be my mother's birthday. Happy birthday.
Wow. Happy
Yeah.
birthday, Mom.
Well, it'll be released a little later, but we're right before the holidays. And I've put out and it will still be available as people listen to this if they listen live, but it's a mini audio course because we're all too busy to just sit down and watch videos, and that's why everything I'm doing anymore is really available in audio, kind of a podcast. And this is actually in a private podcast format for $7. I mean, it's nothing. But it's called Difficult Conversations, turning those difficult conversations into meaningful conversations. And that can be everything from talking to that coworker that's maybe cheating the system a little bit, and to help them save face, just kind of maybe help them realize where they might be off path. Might be having a conversation with our teenager who is, being defiant. It could be having that conversation with our best friend who has maybe strayed away and are doing some things that we know isn't in alignment with what God's will would be. And we have to be careful not to just barge into some of those conversations, because God will tell us when the timing is right and he'll give us the words. But having, what I want to do is empower people to have the confidence and the courage to be able to have those difficult conversations. And so, yeah, that's what the membership really is about, is having some of those deep, meaningful conversations with people from a biblical standpoint, but also from a safe place. Because our world we've been empowered to just be mean, angry with anybody that disagrees with us. I want people to know that that's not going to be allowed here, and whatever's, whether it's the free or the membership, everything we do, we can disagree, but we will do it with kindness and grace and mercy, and have really deep conversations.
Yeah, and I think that's really needed, because I think although there are people who have just turned angry and to shouting and all that, blocking or canceling out and all that in our society, there has to be a place. There are a lot of hungry people and good-hearted people who go, I want to have these conversations, but anymore. You just get your head bit off. And my
Yes, yes,
intention's right. I don't want it the way some of these people are doing it, yet I'm afraid to even say something. So how do I do that? And I think this book and your, conversations, your group will help coach people and prep them for those conversations, right?
right, right.
So
It's
needed.
funny because in the mini course, one of the things I recorded, I said there have been times in my life when it was more important to be right than kind. And that's kind of the mantra for the world these days. And we need to shift that back to it's more important to be kind than right. There are times when we just need to walk away, even if we're
Mhm.
right. We just
Yeah.
need to walk away.
Yeah. It's good advice.
Yeah.
Now, your book isn't just for women, correct? It's for men, it's for women, young
Yes,
or old,
absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
So it could be in a men's group, could be in
Yes,
your group,
yes, yes.
women's at church, anywhere, right?
I
Living rooms.
yeah, I love that. And I really with both books, I would be so honored if people would take either one or both, however, and use those as a book study, a conversation. I actually went through a different view with a small group. It took us like almost a whole year to get through it because we took it
Wow.
chapter by chapter. There were 24 chapters, and we took time off in the summer. And if anybody couldn't make it, we would skip. But we had some amazing, deep conversations. And I just want to put out there that if anybody does that, whether it's locally or not, I would love to, if you just reach out, I would love to maybe offer that I would pop in at least, one time, virtually probably just to join the group and answer questions and things like that. That I would be
Oh,
honored.
that's fun. Do you know, I love when people do that, when authors do that, because when you connect with an author and you feel like so my heart is always, I've had this prayer for years, like, Lord, send me a mentor, right? I need to grow. Every time I need to grow, I'm like, send me somebody I can learn from. And yet so often it's not somebody face to face, but often it's an author who's been where I've been and I feel mentored by them. And so I just think that's fantastic. If I were to pick up your book and read it with other women or men or a co-ed group or a group study, to think, hey, I could just reach out and she could come speak to our group. This would be incredible because it just deepens that connection. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah. I can't think of anything that would be more fun than do that. My favorite thing, other than I love to write, my next favorite thing is to just have those meaningful conversations that I think are so important in life. So yeah, that would bring me joy for sure.
That's so fun. I love that. And what is your hope and dream for this book? Because we write in a moment, we have our goals and ideas, but ultimately it's 20 years from now. Like what.
So that's a really great question. So one of the things that has evolved from the process of writing this book and the process of creating my membership group is one of my coaches, was like, you need to have a success path, right? Stu
Mm,
McLaren, have your success path. And so one of the things I did was I created the faith journey. And it was, it's things that are pulled from the Bible. It's biblical, but I don't think anybody else has ever put it in these particular terms. But I realized again, we don't know what we don't know. And all of
mm,
faith is a journey for all of us. And we start out, my first page is we're a dreamer, right? We've been given this gift of faith, and we're like, all the possibilities, and it's like, oh, this is going to be so amazing, and all our minds just burst with all the places that we can go, but we don't know how amazing it can be, and we can get hung up. And then, kind of like the sower of the seeds in the parable, there are so many things that can distract us and take us away. And unless we plug into the habits, it's very likely that we will wander away from our faith, or we'll only just be so shallow and won't be able to go all in. But if we do stay the course and we start reading the Bible and we get in there, then we start getting excited about all the things that we can learn, and we start diving deep, and we look for mentors, and there's all the things that we go there, and I call those the seeker, because they're seeking more, they're
mm,
looking for a deeper connection with Jesus, and what all that entails. Then as you do that, you start building that confidence and that boldness, and then you move to the next level, which I call the adventurer. because they're like, oh, wow, now I'm getting a glimpse of all of the things that are available to us in this world and inspired to want to do even more, right?
Wow.
And then the next level is when, after we've gotten there and we realize this is mind blowing and this is everything. I need to share this with the world. And they, they've been enough, they've gotten to the point where they have enough confidence because they followed the habits that they can now start, whether it's their own course, to write their own book, lead their own Bible study. It doesn't have to be anything huge, but all of a sudden they become that leader, that Sherpa, which is what I call this stage. And so my dream, that was a long way to get around to the
No,
answer
this
to
is
the
great.
question. But my dream is that people will follow that path. They'll find out where they are in the path, and they'll realize that whichever stage they are on, there's another stage that they can reach for. And if they're that Sherpa, they realize it's like, oh wait, there are people back there that are the dreamers and the seekers and the adventurers. I need to help them. That's what I'm here for. We all have a God-given purpose, and our seasons of life change and evolve. But as they change and evolve, our purpose, truly our purpose, is just to be in God's presence, to know Him, to love Him, to worship and adore Him, and to help others do the same. And that's what, I mean, that seems so big to say, that's what I want out of this book, but that's what I want out of this book. I want people to open it and realize that they've been lied to in so many different ways. And when they hear it from God, not me, it's not my words, it's His words. So whichever one of the books or both, they realize that, oh, yeah, I need to get back to what He wants from me, not what I want from me.
And so I'm curious, do you help? Somebody's going to hear this podcast and say, oh my goodness, I'm right there. I'm still seeking, like there's seeds being sown. And now I'm wondering, do you help people through each part of that journey?
Absolutely. So probably, it's kind of like people kind of have to pick and choose what's right for them. Of course I
Sure.
have, I have the books, and then I have the podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
And what's funny about the podcast is I started it, God, 4 years ago.
Wow.
I'll be starting my fifth season after the first of the year, and the seasons are kind of wonky. They don't always stay exactly a year because I took some time off, which is that other story in the book. But so the podcast is there, and I go back and I listen to some of those early podcasts, and I just marvel at some of the words that God gave me even back then. So there's that, which I think is probably the best for that dreamer or seeker, where they're just getting their feet, dipping their toe in and getting a feel
Yeah.
for it. I feel like the community is probably could be appropriate for either of those stages. I think the membership is really great for the adventurer, probably the seeker adventurer.
Yeah.
And honestly, when you get to the Sherpa stage, I really feel like my mastermind and my one-on-one coaching are really intended for that, because you got to go deeper to be able to be that leader. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
that you'll get enough support and encouragement to really put yourself out there to be that leader.
For sure. Yeah. So I'm curious. There are tons of books on purpose, right? There are tons of books on breaking habits and creating new habits. And there's tons of, whether it's self-help or Christian self-growth or whatever you want to, inspiration, whatever you want to call it. What makes yours different than all the other ones? Why pick yours off the shelf?
It's funny because I was just talking to a potential client the other day, and she said it best. She said, I got on your website and I started reading, and it was like, oh my, like you said earlier, you're talking to me. And she said, I
Mm-hmm.
just realized that that's exactly what's going on in my life. And I need to have help through this part of this journey. And I think what I bring to the table that's different than all the others is, and she said, there are lots of professionals out there that can help me with this dissatisfaction in life, but I love that you come at it from the faith perspective, for one. So it's like I bring the faith, but I also bring that I've been in the corporate world. I had spent 30 years leading people as that employer and in teams and all of that. But then I also come at it with a master's certification in coaching. So I feel like my package is just different enough, that. And honestly, my journey these last few years and learning to be an entrepreneur, which everybody thinks is the end all, it's like all I got to do is just start my own business and life is going to be wonderful. And I've learned that it's not as easy as it looks, but the amazing part of that is I also learned that there were a lot of things that I needed to let go of so that I could really develop that deep relationship with Jesus. We're all on a journey and we're all exactly where we need to be. And there's always a lesson for us to learn, no matter where we are.
Yeah.
And so, like I say often to people, it's like not everybody needs to quit their job and go write a book like I did, or become a coach or whatever. Sometimes we just need somebody to help us take our life, shift the perspective, and look at it from a different view, to realize that God has us there to shine that light in maybe that dark place. Whether you're the CEO of a company or the janitor of a company, you have a purpose there. I've said before, I don't remember the name of it now. Was it The Gambit? Is that the story about the young woman who was the chess player, and anyway,
Oh, I don't know.
she turned into, like, and it's a fictional story, I believe. I'm pretty sure it is. It's a fictional story, but she's like a nationally, or not internationally, renowned chess player. But she started out because she was in a girl's home, and the janitor in that home saw something in her, and she was real shy and reserved. He started playing chess with her. I mean, it was just something
Wow.
random, and completely changed that girl's life. And we don't know whose life we're going to change. It might be our kids, it might be an employee or coworker, it might be the neighbor. We just don't know. But we all just need to, wherever we are, we just need to look around and realize who's here for me to serve today. It doesn't have
Yeah.
to be huge. I think we talked about the other day. A huge realization for me was recently, God helped me see that, sometimes you get wrapped up in the numbers, and, this person's got this many clients and this person's got this many downloads on there, and it's like everybody's, God, Lord, did you forget about me? And the other day, he gave me this, it took Noah 100 years to build the ark. 100 years. And people were laughing at him and thinking how stupid he must have been to be building an ark on dry land, and they'd never even seen rain before. What in the world? And then he only saved 8 people, and they were just his
Right.
family. But none of us would be here if Noah hadn't listened to God and come followed through with that ridiculous idea, and just stuck it out. So
Yeah.
we don't know.
Such a
We don't
good
know.
lesson.
Yeah, we don't know, but we just keep doing what he asks us to do. And the only way we can know what he's asking us to do is to be in his word, to
Yeah,
be in prayer, and to listen to him.
that's right. So true. Such wise words, Vona.
Hmm.
And which brings me to, like, everything that you're saying, and you talk about, this book can help anyone who really is hungry to grow and learn. And what I loved about, one of the favorite things that I wrote down when I was reading your book, was how hopeful it was. You could be in the worst place, or you could be in an okay place, really. I mean, it was just filled with hope. So much so, I wanted to just read. And, as I read through this, so much of what you see on the internet, or you see, whether it's YouTube or marketing, where it's like these 10 steps and you can lose 30 pounds, and you do this and you can have 3,000 followers. Yeah, well, that doesn't work for everybody, right? So
Right.
what I loved about what you said is, on page 84, you talk about like incorporating habits and follow your roadmap, right?
Yeah.
And what I loved about this book, I got all the way to page 84. I was like, you know what? This book is customized and it's individualized, really. And you say these words that I just want to leave everybody with. It says, by incorporating these 10 essential habits in this book into your life, you will be equipped to use the map God created for the world and invited believers to follow. Even though every person is on a different journey, the God who formed the world and everything in it was wise enough to give us a map that will lead us on different paths that miraculously bring us all to the same destination, heaven. Only God can design such a simple yet complicated system, one where we can follow along, live in his will, and fulfill our purpose while reading the same book. Only God can allow us to read the same words and see how they can apply to our lives in a similar yet completely different way, and do so while living in his peace. I love that. It was just so beautifully said. And we can all read these same words, and yet it's so individualized and customized to our own life if we would just let it, you know.
If we would just
So,
trust him. Yes.
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 And with those simple steps brings so much peace, right? It's not in these crazy to-dos all the time. It's in those simple yet obedient steps. And so, okay, so somebody's listening to this podcast and they're really interested. And when is your launch date with this book?
It's January 6th. And
January.
you can pre-order it today. It's available now. January 6th is the official launch date. And I mentioned earlier the difficult conversations course.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody that pre-orders the book before it's actually launched, if you'll connect with me and show me proof of purchase, you get the course for free. So
Wonderful. Wow, you guys, do you hear that?
yeah.
What a gift. So they can pre-order on Amazon, correct? Is that what you're
Yes.
saying?
Yes. That's
Okay.
right now. Amazon's the only one that allows pre-order. I know there are people that aren't crazy about that. And I will just say here that if you're not a fan of Amazon, and I know some people who follow me who aren't, if you will order through me, I will get it to you. And I mean, we'll figure it out. And same offer it goes. And I want to go one step further because, one of the things that's really hard for me, and I think a lot of authors, a lot of people in the world, it's hard to ask people to do things for us, right? I
Sure.
hate to ask, but the only way that others are going to get their hands on this book is if the people who read it and appreciate it for what it is shares it with others. And so I'm going to ask people to share it, to refer a friend to it, to put a post on their social media with a picture or whatever. If I make a post and they like it, share it with their friends. Or if they would go onto Amazon or their favorite retailer and leave a review of the book,
Mm-hmm.
not only will I, and if you tag me or show me proof of it, I will get you an autographed copy of the paperback when it comes out. That to me,
Wow.
that is the best marketing investment I can make. And so that's an offer that I would like to make everyone listening today. So
Yeah, so everybody go out there. You could go to Goodreads, you could go to barnesandnoble.com, you can go to Amazon and leave a book review. And I just want to go a step further and really challenge your readers not only to get a copy for themselves, but buy it and sow a seed into somebody else, because that's just the greatest gift. Sometimes people don't even know that's what they need until they start reading a book and they're like, wow, how did you know? So I
yeah,
encourage them just to pray and put somebody on their heart, and let's see where it goes. So
yeah,
what is can you tell us your website just so
sure.
viewers can go
It's
to you?
it's easy. It's vonajohnson.com. That's only one N in Vona, Vona Johnson.com is my website.
Wonderful.
And yeah, I would love to connect with anybody. If anybody has any questions, if anybody wants to do that book study that we talked about, reach out. I just want to get the word out.
How do they find about your group? You talk about your group and your community. Is that right on your website as well?
It is, or it might be buried. I haven't done a lot of that. Probably the best way is on my website is to join my newsletter. And that way there is opportunity. There are lots of opportunities, but like, again, if you don't feel like just searching everywhere, just join my newsletter, because I'm just now getting to the point where I'm marketing. It's really small right now.
Yeah,
I don't have a ton of people on it, and you got to start somewhere, right?
that's right.
I just encourage people to hop in and join us and grow with us. I really think that the more people that will begin to live there more, how amazing would it be if we could, if we could truly had people all over walking around with live there more, equipped for more, just sharing with love and joy and just being good people that love Jesus, right?
Absolutely. And one another.
Yes.
Well, I love you, Vona. Thank you so much. Congratulations on the book. It's just so exciting. Thank you for that. And you guys get out there and purchase a copy today. Thank you, Vona.
Thank you, Dana. I always love our conversations, and I appreciate your willingness to share, help me share the message with the world. It's so much easier to have a conversation than to just sit there solo on my podcast. I love the podcast, but I love the conversations too. So thank you, my friend. I love you too.
So there you have it. Isn't Dana just great? I just enjoyed the conversation with her so very much. Before we take off, I want to share a couple of things with you. And first of all, I want to remind you what Scripture tells us about the light that we carry within us. In Luke 8, verses 16 and 17, no one would light a lamp and then cover it up or put it under a bed. No, lamps are mounted in the open, where they can be seen by those entering the house. For everything that is hidden or secret will eventually be brought to light and made plain to all. Folks, we are here to shine our light. We are here to show people God's love and to invite them into that love. And we can hold back out of fear. We can hold back out of doubt or just afraid that someone's going to judge us if we speak up. But that's not what we are called to. We are called to have courage and boldly live our faith. And that's what I want to help you do with this book, Equip for More. So here's the plan. As I offered before, if you pre-order the book, and right now it's just the ebook that's available on Amazon. I haven't gotten through the process with the paperback. It is coming. If you want to wait for the paperback, that's great. The offer still applies through the January 6th date that we talked about. So if you do that and you want the difficult conversation mini course that I talked about, it's like a podcast. You can listen to it just like you're listening to this. It's just on a private podcast platform. But anyway, that offer stands through January 6th. In the meantime, I'm gonna take a couple weeks. I'm gonna enjoy the holidays. I've got family coming, and I just really want to do some planning and prepare for this next year, where we're gonna focus on Equip for More, and we're gonna have lots of conversations here, but we're gonna have more conversations in my both free community and that paid membership we talked about earlier. So if you want to stay connected, even during these couple of weeks break, hop in there. I'll put links in the show notes, which you'll be able to find at longingformorepodcast.com. And then just click on this episode 160, and that's where all the information will be. So check that out. And I just thank you so much again for being here. Have a Merry Christmas if you're listening to this before the holidays, a blessed New Year. And I just encourage you to really think about how you can be shining your light into the world. And if I can help you with that, I would be so honored to do so. So God bless. And remember to always, always live your more.